All right, so up to this point, we've been creating CRUD apps. And who can tell me what CRUD stands for?
Create, read, update, and destroy.
Yeah, create, read, update, and destroy. If you think about everything on the internet, pretty much everything is a CRUD app, except for Twitter, which is the only one that I've gotten stumped by. But if you name a website, I'm almost 100% positive that it is some variation of CRUD. There are very few resources, very few online web apps and web pages that are anything less than CRUD apps. But they're kind of boring, right? Like you kind of say okay, I can create stuff inside of a database and read, update, destroy. That's the foundation for everything. But we want to give our apps a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more sexiness now, and a little bit more utility. So today what we're going to do is we're going to create a CRUD app to create some landmarks around the globe or around Chicago, and we're going to plug it in using third-party APIs. And third-party APIs are basically, it stands for Application Programming Interface, which is a fancy way of saying you're interacting with the website in a particular way to get a particular result. So let's think about your everyday life for a second. So you do certain things well, and that's why people pay you to do those things. If you think about Platoon, we're pretty decent at teaching software. We have a pretty decent curriculum, and you pay us to do something. You can obviously learn all of this on your own. Go ahead and try to Google things, and there's online courses and tutorials, and you can follow all of that kind of stuff yourself. But there's nothing we're teaching that's super proprietary. It's all open source software. So that someone has done it before us. We learned it from someone who learned from online tutorials and created a bootcamp and then taught us. But the reason why you pay us to teach you the concepts is that we're good at it, and we whenever you can, you try to outsource the things that you outsource. So think about really rich people. So really rich people, they could spend their time cleaning their house on a Sunday afternoon, right? They could save a bit of money there, or they could pay somebody and then make more money during that particular bit of time. And the same thing applies to web technologies right now. But you're at, let's say that you want to create an app that allows you to bring umbrellas for a surcharge during days that it rains and somebody forgot to bring an umbrella. Think about all the software that you need for that. You need to be able to predict weather. You need to be able to create maps. You need to basically map out the entire US. You need to charge people money whenever you show up. So these are all things that you can do yourself. You can totally create weather apps and hook into the National Weather Service. You can totally go around the world and drive and figure out where you are on a particular map using, you could do it yourself. You could create a way to charge credit cards and store credit card information. But all of those things cost a lot of time. They cost a lot of money. You have an app where you want to bring umbrellas to people when it's raining outside. They don't have them. So instead of you creating everything yourself, you can actually pay other people to do those things for you because they do it better than you. So weather.com can give you weather right away. All you got to do is pay them a little bit of money. You can do Google Maps for the entire map of the US. You don't have to drive around with the cameras and 3D get resolution of the entire world. And you can pay PayPal or Stripe to store processing and credit cards and all that kind of stuff because storing credit cards is a giant disaster. It is very, very highly regulated, and you have to have an entire legal team to read through all the fine print, and if you break anything, you're screwed. Or something that I worked on more recently was I worked at a place called One Main Financial, which does personal loan in the subprime space. But something about branch locations. So I think there are 1,600 branch locations, and imagine if I had to take care of all of these branch locations myself. I have to keep 1,600 records in the database. Anytime that anybody updates anything, I have to go inside the database, update it. They have to remember to email me in case the branch closed, all that kind of stuff. And then you all have to keep track of their Yellow Pages account, which is still a real thing. You have to keep track of their Facebook pages if they have it. So we said to ourselves, why do we have to, why should we go into the database and manually update everything when there's a website called Placeable, which does all this third-party stuff for us. So if you want to go inside of Illinois and you're looking for a One Main Financial branch, here's all of the locations, and this is a Google Maps integration, and it's more or less what we're doing today. We're going to create some landmarks inside of our database. We're going to plot those onto Google Maps, and it's going to show up over here. All of this stuff, all the phone number, all the address, all the titles, most of this information here is not managed by us. Like we could manage it ourselves, but then the branch manager might be like, hey, we want to open at 8:45 instead of 5:30. All they have to do is they have to just update it on the website, and then it's automatically updated on our side over here. Fun little fact. These are put on here by latitude and longitude. At one point, somebody flipped them on placeable side by accident. They put the latitude where the longitude is, and vice versa. And then all of a sudden, I was like pretty new, so I pushed stuff into production. And then my boss goes, "Why do we have branches in Antarctica?" I was like, "What?" Like, so I go in there and I take a look, and I was like, wow, like everything it was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It wasn't where it was supposed to be. And he's like, "Who put this change in?" I was like, "That was me." And he goes, "Why did this happen?" And we had to do some investigation. We found out that somebody on the back end had flipped it by accident to make longitude, latitude, and vice versa. And it wasn't my fault. It went through like 7 people, and everyone said it was good to go. So it's not one central point, I feel like. And that's kind of where you're going to be when it comes to writing code. When you write code as a junior developer, you will push things into, like, you'll open up pull requests, kind of like what you do with your challenges right now. A bunch of people will look at it, they're going to review it, they're going to merge it, and then they're going to merge it. So at that point, what's going to happen is if you blow up something, it's not your fault anymore, because there's obviously like 4 or 5 other people who are doing things well. Okay, let's jump into today's coding portion. Is that big enough? Let's lower that so everyone can see. All right. All right, so we're going to be on the desktop, and we're going to run Django, admin, start the project. We're going to call it landmarks. I'm going to remove it yesterday. And if I list out everything, there's that landmarks that showed up a little bit earlier. I'm going to CD into it. I'm going to open the whole thing inside of VS Code. All right, now that I've got this up over here, remember a project in Django has the concept of many applications. So we could do a few things with this landmarks project. We could just have perhaps just a map app to begin with, just so we can display it. Maybe we can have like a tour guide app that we can connect to tour guides to come to particular locations to talk about it. You can do many things. But today we're just going to have one project called landmarks. We're going to create one app called maps. First things first, I'm going to create a virtual environment, Python -m, then. And you can tell me a little bit about what a virtual environment is and why it's important.
We talked about the bubble boy analogy the other day, where you're creating just an enclosure just in case you install extra libraries, you can keep versions separate from other things on your machine.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So you can think of a virtual environment folder that just appeared. When I activate it by doing source, then, and activate, it now surrounds it kind of like creates a separate enclosure within my computer so that I can install anything that I want without affecting the rest of my machine. All the things I install exist within this folder. And it doesn't like fully exist, like affect the rest of my stuff within the machine. I don't have a better analogy for it. I'm trying to think of a better one out of my head.
Sandbox.
What's that?
Sandbox.
Yeah, you can kind of think of it like a sandbox. So it's kind of like when you go to a playground and my friends are all starting to have kids. It means that I will soon probably be having kids, because that's just how the world works. But whenever we go to a playground, we take a kid, we drop them in the sandbox, right? The sandbox, it's pretty big for a child. They can fall and everything, and it won't damage, they won't be affected by the rest of the world, and they won't affect the rest of the world. They can pee in the sandbox and whatever, it won't affect the outside world. It's just limited to within the sandbox. And if you go outside the sandbox and if you pee somewhere, you could get, your parents could get in trouble or something, or they could fall and they can get hurt. And it's the same thing here. Everything that we have that's within the virtual environment is within the sandbox. It won't affect the outside, and nothing on the outside will affect it. And then once you turn off the virtual environment, like this line up here, without the parentheses EEMB at the very top, then you can't affect the sandbox, and the sandbox can't affect the outside because you don't have a sandbox. All right, so with that, we have a activated virtual environment, and we're going to install Django. My computer has Django, but I want to install like the most recent version specifically for this project landmarks so that it doesn't affect the rest of my machine. All right, I'm going to clear the screen. And I'm going to run Python manage.py. That's this file over here that was generated from the start project. Start app called map. So we've got 3 folders inside of this landmarks folder that I created. One of them is the landmarks project. One of them is the map app, and then the virtual environment. We're going to live mostly inside the map app. But first, we need to register this app within landmarks as setting. If I scroll down into install apps, these are all things that come in built in from Django whenever we load up the landmarks project. I need to add one more. It's going to be the map application. And then we're going to jump into our map application. First things first, it's the same process every single time. It may seem like kind of boring and stuff, but that's kind of all software engineering. You're going to start off by creating your project, creating your app, registering your app within your project, and then we're going to think of the models. So I want to create some landmarks in my database, and I want each one of those to have a particular name or something like that. What else would go inside the landmark? If you were, what's that?
It's address.
It's address. Okay, so let's figure this out. So we want to do class landmark. It's going to inherit from the model library from Django. So we said we wanted the landmark name. We're going to make that a character field, char field, and we'll do max length of 200. We said an address. Models.char field, and then we'll make that max length of 200 again. These are just arbitrary numbers. Anything else? Anything else go inside of a landmark?
Like description.
Okay. Let's make a description. And should we make what kind of field should we make that?
Text field, probably.
A text field? What's the difference between a text field and a character field?
Maximum.
Excellent. All right. I feel pretty comfortable with this. It seems like we're just going to have one model. It's going to be the landmark, has a name, an address, and a description. I feel pretty good with that. So just because we create this model, what do we have to do next? Like, just because we create this model doesn't mean that it's in the database or anything. We have to run a couple of extra commands. What comes next?
Make migration.
We're going to make a migration. Python manage.py, make migrations. You'll notice that when I started typing inside of models.py, this random folder called migration showed up. There's nothing inside of it. It's just an empty file for right now. But once I run this, you'll see that 001 initial.py came up. You can make whatever changes you want inside of models.py. You can update different classes or different models. You can change different names within here. You can add a field. You can remove a field. Once you run make migrations, what Django's doing underneath the hood is it's looking to see like what did the old version of this look like and what changed, so I can make another migration to change that in the future. So we've got initial.py and a bunch of stuff that I don't understand. But all I know is that there's a file in there that the machine knows how to read. I'm going to run Python manage.py migrate. So again, the 3 steps we take are 1, figure out like what does your schema look like? What do you want your database to look like? This is the name of the table. This is the name of the column, and then this is the type of the column. I run make migrations, which doesn't do anything fancy. It just automatically generates this for me. Against like that idea of a third-party API, you could type all of this out yourself, or you can just run make migrations because it makes it easier for you. The thing that actually moves it into the database is this manage.py migrate. It takes all the contents inside of this particular file, and then it executes them so that it's actually inside the database. Let's seed the database first with some stuff. So I'm going to just say, so over here, to from map, the particular app name, dot models, import landmark. Let's see what else. Landmark Landmark.objects.create. And I think we had three things: landmark name, address, and description. Landmark name equals something, address equals something, and description equals something. All right, let's create a few landmarks. What do you want? What's a landmark that you all know?
Eiffel Tower.
Eiffel Tower. All right, the address actually have handy. All right, the address is here. It is that, and then I'm just going to call it romantic as the description. What are some other things that we can create? Let's create three so that we have stuff inside the database when we get started.
Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty. Let's look up the address. And then what do you want the description to be? America and freedom. And then lastly, let's create one more landmark out of our database. What would you like?
Chicago being something local.
Okay, Chicago Bean. I'm going to call it the Bean. It's actually called Cloudgate.
Huh. I don't know what it was at.
The official name is actually Cloudgate under the right description. Actually, it is the Cloudgate. I don't know the address of the Statue of Liberty, so let me just look that up. Statue of Liberty address. And it doesn't even have an address. I think it's its own thing. It's going to say Statue of Liberty National Monument. And I think that is literally the address. So we created, just going back a little bit, we created our model. It's called Landmark. It has 3 columns inside of it. We made the migration right over here. We migrated it into our database, and now all we're trying to do is we're trying to seed the database so that we have at least a few things inside of it. So I'm going to run Python manage.py shell. And what this is doing is it's opening a Python shell for me so I can still run every single Python command that I want. But it also has the ability to access my entire application. I'm going to run this line one by one. So from map.models, import the landmark class so that I can create objects. All right, nothing blows up there. Let's see if this works. But before that, I'm going to run landmark.objects.all, and I get a query set of nothing. It's an empty set because there's nothing inside the database. So I'm going to just dump this line in here, landmark.objects.create, and I'm passing in the 3 fields that are required. Hit enter, and it looks like it did create something inside of there. We can verify that by typing in landmark.objects.all. And there, it used to be an empty query, and now it's something that's actually there. I'm going to quickly go through the rest of these other 2. We'll continue on. 2 and 3. Just verify that it is all there. Landmark.objects.all. I've got a query set of 3 objects inside of there, 1, 2, and 3. So at this point, I know that I've got a database set up with the landmark table inside of there. There are 3 records within the landmark table, and let's go through it. So we've got our map over here, and first things first, we want to register our map URLs that hasn't been created yet inside of our landmark app. So whenever we visit here, I want to bring in. All right. Anytime anybody comes to our website, visits admin/anything, this particular set of URLs is going to take over. And the same thing's going to happen here. I'm going to do URL. Let's say it's landmarks/anything. It's going to pass it off to include map.urls. I believe I need to bring in map and at the very top. So again, we're at the project level. Anytime anybody makes a request to /landmarks, the map application is going to have a file called URLs, who's going to take care of the rest of it. And it's going to look very similar to this urls.py. I'm going to grab this up here and just dump it. Let's see. import the path. I'm going to import the views file over here because remember, whenever we visit like a particular URL, it's going to be a view file and then the particular method name. So we're going to do from import views. We're going to do URL patterns. Okay. And the first path that we're going to create is this /nothing views landmark list. And we're going to give it a name of landmark list. So again, let's start from the outside. We're at the app level, we're at the project level over here. There's a urls.py file. This is kind of like the switchboard for a particular building. Whenever anybody makes a request to /admin/ anything, this particular set of URLs is going to take over. Whenever anybody makes a request to /landmark/ anything, maps.url is going to take over. It's kind of like I call the operator at a hospital, and you direct me to the oncology department. They'll transfer you to, whenever anybody asks for oncology, I'm going to transfer them to extension 2345. And then once they get there, there's a whole nother set of routes that they can go on. So I'm here now. I am at /landmark/ anything. The views file is going to have a method called landmark list that's going to take care of it for me. And inside of here, there's no landmark list quite yet. So I'm just going to copy and paste and go over it. But this line stays the same. We're bringing in the landmark model from models.py over here on the left side. We're going to get all of the landmarks, and then we're going to return this particular HTML file. It's going to be under template /map/landmark list. So I'm going to create a folder called templates. Inside of there, I'm going to create a folder called map. And inside of there, I'm going to create a file called landmark list.html. So I'm going to say that I'm just going to write yo for right now, just to see if we've set this up correctly. There at the screen, Python manage.py run server. So it looks like it's living on localhost 8000. Localhost 8000, I've got this brought up right over here, and it doesn't go anywhere. Why does it not work the way that I want it to?
You're not the landmarks URL.
Yep, I'm not at the landmarks URL. I'm just going to the landmark here. Before I was just at the home path. I didn't have anything at the end of the URL. But if I did /landmarks, there's yo. It just shows up right over there. So now that I know that I can get over here, I need to actually use the landmarks that I have within the database. The first thing I did was I found all the landmarks in the database, saved it inside of landmarks, and I'm passing it off to the particular template through this dictionary, landmarks, the value of landmarks found on line 5. I am going to grab all this and just replace. So I've created a div at the very top. I don't need to. I don't want to. I'm just going to create a H1 that says my landmarks. I'm going to do embedded Jinja2 templates. It's just fancy of saying I have some Python stuff and I'm iterating over the Python stuff. I'm going to create HTML elements out of them. So I'm going to iterate over each one of them. For landmark in landmarks, I'm going to create just a list, perhaps. It just says H2 with landmark name and the address. So you won't see anything broken here before I move on.
What question does indentation matter in Jinjas? It matters in Python, but it's not Python.
The question was, does this indentation matter? Let's see if this runs first, and then we'll mess it up to see if it. I don't know the answer. I'm pretty sure the answer is yes, but I'm not positive. So I'm over here on landmarks again. Refresh the page. So I've got my landmarks. I've got 3 of them. Let's see if my indentation mattered. I guess not. I thought it did, but it's what it is. We've got landmark.name over here and landmark.address. Wait, what happened?
Descriptions in there?
We could do description, but this is like a list. This is just the list of all of them. So maybe we'll just have the name for now, and the address, and we'll have the description. We'll view the detail. But I'm just seeing the address here.
This is, I think we have a landmark.
Yep.
At name.
Yep. So I asked a little bit earlier, did anyone see anything wrong? So we have landmark dot name, but inside the model, we call it landmark dot landmark name. So let's change that. And what you'll see is instead of just saying address now, it'll have the Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty and the beam. Now, if I hover over each one of these, I've hard-coded, and you look in the bottom left corner, I've hard-coded all the URLs to go to / hashtag because I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Now that we're able to see all of the landmarks in our / landmarks page, I want to view a little bit of the detail for each one of these. So if I hover over this, I want this to go to / landmark / 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to start off, it's pretty much the same pattern every time. Create a new route. I believe this is going to be path. It's without looking.
Integer.
All right, int, thank you. I'll call this landmark ID. All right, so this is the route / landmark / some number. The views file is going to have something called landmark detail inside of it. And I will call it landmark detail. Add a comma onto the end to be friendly to the next developers. They don't have to type it. And it blows up. It says module map.views. So this views file over here doesn't have an attribute called landmark detail. Makes sense. I haven't written it yet. Come down to views.py, same thing. Takes in a request, takes in a landmark ID. First things first, find the landmark ID. Landmark objects.get ID equals landmark. This should look pretty familiar to you now. This was what we did during that Django ORM days, the last part of week 6. And then I'm just going to grab all this and copy and paste for right now. So I find the landmark in the database on line 9. Then on line 10, I'm going to render map. Maybe I'll call this landmark detail. So I have to create a new HTML file. And I'm going to change this from landmarks to landmark because I'm only talking about one of them. I just need to add one more file called landmark detail.html. And I'm just going to type the same thing, yo, just to make sure that we got here. So if all works well, I will hover over this, and that didn't do anything. Let's go to /1 for right now. It just says yo, so I know this is set up correctly. I want to fix these links. Not sure what's going on.
We didn't get it a link yet.
Good call. Looks like I'm just still taking them to hashtag. So how do I create a link to that / landmark.id? How do I do that? All right, so I'm going to do this and mark detail. I don't think I need a comma. Landmark ID is equal to landmark.id. I think I just close it off like that. Will that do it? So, refresh the page here. Hover over it. /1, /2, /3. I'm looking at the bottom left-hand corner. You have no idea where I am. So if I click on this, it'll take me to yo, yo, and yo. So what we've done here is we've created what's called a named route. We didn't hard code the route. We could have done the same thing by saying / landmarks / landmark ID. We could have hard coded each individual one, but what we're doing here is we're telling Python, hey, there is a URL called landmark detail, and it needs one parameter. The landmark ID, which is going to be equal to landmark.id. I want you to build each one of those for me. It's rather than us hard coding everything. So it goes inside the URLs folder file. It looks for something called landmark detail, which is right over here. It looks like, oh, I need a particular, I need to insert something. I need to interpolate something, specifically landmark ID. And the value of that is this landmarks ID. We're inside of here now. So let's
I have a question.
yes.
Is there some kind of way we could refactor I think the views where we have the render the same thing on two different functions?
Do we have the exact same thing on two different? We have two different ones on two different lines. 6 and 10 are different.
Turn?
Yep, the 6 and 10 are different. One's landmark list.
Okay, my bad. Sorry.
But if they use the exact same one, is that what you're asking? Then you can put this inside of a method and then just call that method.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right, so all I've got is the name, the address, and then I think it was called description. And we'll be a little bit more strategic here. I'll make it strong.
And make sure you change the landmark.
And I'm going to add a little bit. Please do not blow up. Let's find out if this works. We're back here on landmarks there. I'm going to refresh the page. It says the Bean, 201 East Randolph. It's actually called the Cloud Gate. So we've got this. It's fine. It works. We can go to the Eiffel Tower. We can go to the Statue of Liberty. We're able to look at all of them and read an individual one. But we want to give a little bit more functionality. Maybe a nice map over here would be kind of cool, right? So this is where we start thinking about, like, we've got the bare bones of an application. What do we need to do to make it more lively? What other things can we integrate over here? And the easiest thing to integrate right now, since we're talking about a particular address, is probably Google Maps. So we're going to go over here to the Google Maps platform. Now, there are third-party APIs for everything. When I say third-party APIs, it is a company providing you access to their platform for free, or sometimes it's paid. But you can get information from that particular platform. So you can use Google Maps within your application. You can use information from Ticketmaster, which is what you're going to do a little bit later today. Pretty much everything that you can imagine has a third-party API that you can integrate with it. So, pause real quick. So we've got Google Maps, and Google has like the gold standard for like API documentation. They're able to tell you pretty much everything that you need to know of how to integrate this. So the documentation is really, really good. All we're going to do today, there's like 7 different types of maps that they have. We're going to use something called the Embed API today. So I'm going to click on this one over here. And it gives you pretty much everything that you need. I want to highlight a location. All you got to do, if you wanted, or I wanted to show the results of the search, all you got to do is copy and paste this code down over here, and it'll get you all of that. Right now, all I want to do is I want to highlight a place or a location, and let's see if I just copy and paste this over. I'm going to copy this over here, and maybe we'll just put this over here. Looks like there's a few things missing. It looks like it's going to google.com/maps/embed/b1 place, and then this is what's called a query parameter. Anytime you see a question mark, it's saying like these are the additional fields that I'm passing on to Google. Looks like you need a query, and it looks like a key. What's a key?
API key.
What's an API key, Steve?
I don't know.
If you had a guess, where does anyone
It's a unique identifier saying that I am me and I'm requesting this information.
That is exactly it. Yeah, so an API key. This thing on the left that says get an API key. We're going to click on that one. And what an API key is, it's a key that's unique to you. So whenever you log in, usually you get a username and a password, and you pass that in. You could do that, but the way that companies generally do it now is they assign a unique API key to you, and at any time that you use it, they will charge you, or they might not charge you. Google Maps luckily is free, but this way they can basically see like, oh, a request came in from an API key with like ABC123. ABC123 is registered to Justin. We can count how many times that person made requests to us, and then we can charge them appropriately at the end of the month. So I'm going to run to get an API key. This is a unique key associated with my account for billing and usage purposes. And let's jump down to get an API key. To get an API key, I'm going to visit the Google Cloud Platform console. My code to all right, let me jump to this. obviously you can read through all of this. It's pretty important stuff, but I didn't want to go over each one of it with you. All right, so it looks like from here, there's a whole Google Cloud platform using Google Maps. There's no billing, traffic response codes. It looks like it keeps track of metrics for me. And yesterday, somebody made a few requests, but they were all 200s, which is good. Jump over to API. I want to secure my credentials. How do I get a new API key? It's over here.
It'll be on your console, right?
Yep. Get an API key. Credentials. Where are you seeing credentials?
It was under API services.
Under API.
It was the hamburger menu.
Hamburger menu.
Under API services.
Yep. Credentials. Oh, okay. Good. All right, I'm going to just get rid of one from yesterday that I created and create a new one. So we're back at our cloud platform. We're at our credentials screen. We're going to create a credential right over here. I'm going to create specifically an API key. All right, so it's generated over here. Let me just grab it for right now. And it's uniquely generated every single time. There's no way I'm going to memorize this at all. So I'm just going to grab this. And I'm going to replace the key with the ... to this. This is the unique key that I just created. This is registered to me under john@codeplatoon.org. And this is what's called a public key. This doesn't have it. You can visit using my key. This is the way that it identifies that John is the one that's making this request each and every time. But I'm actually going to change the queue over here to change it to a place ID. Grab this. Agree to get rid of that altogether. Back over here. Press page. We have something. All right, so we go back to our /landmarks page. We've got 3 landmarks set up over here. We're gonna click on the Eiffel Tower. We've got an address, but I've got this right over here as well. It's just taking me straight to 125 South Park, and I'm not sure why that is.
Could you please explain where you got the place ID from?
Sure, the place ID I just copied from the curriculum,
Okay.
but we're gonna change it real quick.
Okay.
So I basically said we have a place ID, and this is Google's like unique identifier of how to register 125 South Park. This is their way of registering it if you don't pass in an address. So it looks like I've gotten the Eiffel Tower. I've gotten an address. What I want to do is I want to take this address. I want to make it so that when I put it inside of here, maybe I can replace place ID with address and then just paste it inside the URL. So what am I going to do? I want to get rid of this altogether. I want to interpolate somehow, I don't know, address, and see what happens. So if a HTML file has like a variable called address, where do I need to get that address from? Where do I need to create that address?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. So if you take a look at my screen right here, I've got the Eiffel Tower, I've got the address of the Eiffel Tower, and I have the description of the Eiffel Tower. So I've got the landmark name, the address, and the description, and I want to put in the address over here.
Where you guys can where it comes from?
Yeah,
You
where's it
show
from?
me the landmark.
Oh, it'd be landmark. Good catch. Let's see if this works. Refresh the page. Just like that. It works. Let's try it. Let's go back. Maybe Statue of Liberty. Does this work? It does. And then the bean as well. This one works. Now, I will say that Google Maps is the first API that everyone uses because it's super, super easy. In fact, it's so easy to the point where you just select an iframe. Like they give you this on their website, and you change two things. One of them it's the address, and the second one you just put in your key.
Where did you get the key from?
Again, the key came from get an API key. I like registered over here, clicked on Google Cloud Platform Console, and it tells you exactly what to do. This is like the examples of really, really good documentation where it's like you visit the website and then everything just works for you. It's not always that case. If I went to Ticketmaster, which is what you're going to use later this afternoon, you have access to pretty much everything Ticketmaster related. You can create a key that's going to be registered to your email address. You won't get charged for it because I think it's all free. So you start writing to them. But it looks like I'm looking for events by a certain location. So it's called they call it the Discovery API. So I'm going to click on that. It looks like I need to you need to pass your API key in the API key query parameter. It should automatically appear in all things. Okay. So if I go to example app.ticketmaster.com/discovery/feature/events/station.api key equals your API key. Once you create it, you can pass it into here, and you'll be able to view all their stuff because your API key is registered to you. This is slightly similar. All you're doing really is I'm visiting a website with a particular credential, and I have access to some of the materials inside of there. Same thing over here. Google.com/maps. If I change this key to something that's not a real key, what you'll notice is if I go back to my landmarks here on tab 1 and refresh, it blows up and says it rejected your request because the API key is not a legitimate one. It doesn't really exist. So you'll be getting a API key from Ticketmaster, and you can do things like get all the events in the United States. So you can go to apps.ticketmaster.com. Country code is the US, and you provide the API key. After the question mark, these are things called query parameters. So you have key equals value. So it's like I'm looking for everything with a country code, all the events which has the country code of the US. Or if I'm looking for a particular one where it's closest to LA, classification. ID equals 324. It looks like MAID is probably the name of a metropolitan. Oh, it's a metropolitan area ID. So you probably have to make a request to see, I'm in Chicago right now. So you have to make a request to get the metropolitan ID, and then you can pass it into here, and then you can see all the music events that are happening in the Chicago area. So this afternoon's challenge is going to be a augmentation of what we have here the first half of the day. Any questions on third-party APIs?
You interpolated the address right in, and is Google different than APIs that we'll find out there, and then how it handles that data? Because that address data can be imperfect, it has spaces, it doesn't have an exact location.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that this worked. So yeah, that's a great question. So the question was, I interpolated the address straight into the URL. And I think what happened was, if you take a look over here, where's model stuff you went? Address has a bunch of spaces in it. So I'm really surprised this worked because the address has 201 space E space Randolph. It has all these spaces inside of it. So what I was originally going to do, I didn't think this was going to work, was I was going to take out all the spaces and put %20 in there. And replace, basically it's just like a dot replace space with %20, which is the Unicode version of saying space. But it looks like either Django, I think it's Django, is actually taking all the spaces and automatically just shrinking it to begin with.
I was wondering, is that Django? Is that Google? Are we not going to find that reliability?
I'm pretty sure it's Django doing it and not Google. So I'm going to stop recording here. We'll take a 10-minute break, come back at 9 o'clock, and then we'll talk about salary negotiations.